phone's pretty good. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very good.
yeah. All right, I might turn my camera off now.
Okay, no worries, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was good to see you, Luke. Adam. I can put a face to the name.
Yeah, I've got to clean the back of my office too.
Oh, you're not the only one, mate. I'm actually at work, but
yeah,
my home office has turned into a junk room. I've got to clean it out.
Yeah, sorry, you probably heard me say, but my internet dropped out for a while.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And our plan was to record it, and I only just turned the record button on. I forgot about it when we started.
Yeah, okay.
But the information we talked about, whereabouts are you, Adam?
I'm in Allensford.
Okay, so that's down in Warrnambool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I am going to send through a little booklet that has got some stuff in it too, so
yeah,
you should be fine. I think there's just a couple of questions about the legal responsibilities in your assessment, but you'll be able to find it. And Dylan, I have turned the record on now. Oh, I knew I'd forget to do something.
Tracy, I think that when you talk about the OHS part, could you please cover something about Queensland as well? Because Jackie is from Queensland.
Yeah, and it's the same as the New South Wales guys.
Yeah.
The wording will be different, but the intent's exactly the same. And all the section numbers will be different as well.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing is I'm probably going to leave the meeting soon. I need to set up the meeting in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't need to be sitting in on all this.
And if possible, I'll see you in the afternoon in the Tetra Pak meeting as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll just see how we go here and how much I get done in that hour. I just want to do a little bit for tomorrow. I'm still not quite ready. I will be.
Do we come back after the Tetra Pak one today?
We did talk about that, and I was just thinking about it. We might just give the guys a little bit of a chance to ask any questions after in that last hour. And I want to direct them just to a couple of things for tomorrow. So yes, come back just for a little bit.
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, what's his mum's name? Is it? Yeah, Rose told me yesterday. Oh, you were saying flowers from the ag. Yeah, no, that's just shocking. That I just heard Rose sort of scream yesterday. Yeah. And I said, "What's wrong?" She just read the paper thing. Yeah. I don't know how it ever happened. How silent lapses or fertiliser. So heavy. Oh, it's fertiliser one. Yes, I don't know whether it's a field bin and some of them need, or whether it's like just heavy. Oh, I just took it that it must be a grain silo or something collapsed. I didn't realise it was fertiliser. Oh, that would be easy to happen. You know, it's the auger or what? Well, yeah, I don't assume. Oh, he's a really nice young fellow. Went through Cert 3 and Cert 4. And it won't be efficient. How many, is he the only son? Yeah. What, fatality? Fatality? Yeah, he died last Friday. And yeah, just an awful time. Yeah. And you can't even have it. I'm talking about a funeral on Saturday. And we're with social spacing and everything. Yeah. Yeah, you're not allowed to have 10 people. I don't know. So real cancer. Yeah, only 5 a wedding. What's that? 5 at a wedding? Yeah. The bride, the groom, 2 witnesses and the celebrant. I know someone who's getting married on Saturday. No, that's what they'll be having. Shit. Unless they cancel it. God, that's unbelievable. Yeah. John Williamson. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to do our distance thing the other week when we got married.
Oh, okay.
But only we were like, it was okay for family, but any other outsiders, mate, we didn't want to know them.
Well, this is just say today that you were fine.
Yeah.
Oh, 10:41, I better go again. Where's my microphone? Oh, it's not on mute. I thought it was on mute. Is everybody back?
Yes, all back.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, there used to be a little symbol that you guys could use, but I can't find it. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to leave the legal stuff alone for a little bit. Might come up as we go, but really this is around the risk management process. So while we go through these ones, I want you to be thinking about how OH&S hazards and risks are managed in your own workplaces. Now, there's no hard and fast rules for this. It just has to be that they are managed. And yeah, so something like this truck getting loaded on the docks, have they got some safety things in place there? I think they have. Not too many people around. So anyway, we'll move on. And why doesn't it want to progress? If I click, there we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about the risk management process and how it is a process that we follow from step 1 through to step whatever until we fix the problem. So it's used to identify hazards in your workplace. Now, we already had someone, and I can't remember who it was, sorry. I'm not that good at I can only see half a list of names at a time, and I can't remember who told me what. But certainly one way of identifying hazards is to do your audits, your area audits. I think it's going to come up again, so I'm not going to say too much here. So risk management, we have to identify the hazards before we can do anything else. So just put yourself in the boss's shoes for a minute. They can only fix what they know about. So it's really important that we encourage workers to actually try not to use the identify word again. If they see something that's hazardous, that could hurt someone or make someone sick, that they tell someone following due processes within your individual workplaces. Okay, so the next step in the risk management system is to actually find out about the hazard. So assess the degree of risk associated with that hazard. Then following that, once we know all about the hazard, we can put in some sort of risk control to make sure that the people doing that job are much safer than they would otherwise be. And that particular part of our risk management process also includes some sort of change management. So whenever we want to put a new control in place, in effect, it is a change management process. So just keep in mind, it's not only deciding about the control, but it's also making it happen. Once your control's in place, and you'll have a different time period for each hazard here, depending on what it is, we want you to actually go in and monitor your controls. Is it working? Do we need to do some more work on it? So this is one part of your OH&S management system to make sure that people are safe. Okay, everybody's got something? We're thinking about our own workplaces? Good. So this is just another way of looking at those 4 steps. I've pinched this from WorkSafe Victoria. I think it's quite a good way to show it because it is a continuous improvement process. And you'll notice the consultation word round right around that. It looks a bit like a CD, doesn't it? Consultation is vital if we're going to have a safe workplace. We need to involve everybody who's affected by whatever the hazard is to be part of that process. Okay, let's keep moving now. It hasn't got fly-ins. I thought I had fly-ins on this one. The answers are already up there. So just some definitions. When you're looking for hazards, you're looking for the things that can harm people. And it could be that it's really easy to see something that might result in someone having a fall from height. That would result in pretty serious injury, wouldn't it? It could be something that's got moving parts. Any of you who are working with evaporators, we don't want anybody getting stuck in there. That wouldn't be a good outcome, would it? Again, a harm thing, although if you've had a near miss with an evaporator, there's probably some health issues there as well. So anything in the workplace that can hurt us in any way, whether it's a physical injury that's immediately apparent, whether it's an illness, and with illness we also have to include psychological illness. We'll talk a bit more about that as we finish up today. We also talk about, in the context of risk scores, the likelihood, and you're all going to have some different definitions around likelihood, but what is the chance of something actually happening? And then we also use the consequence word a fair bit. What will the injury, illness or damage be if we do have some sort of event? I guess from a safety point of view, I'm really concerned about the injury and illness bit. Damage to equipment, yeah, it's not good, but at least it's not people. Might mean you haven't got so many people around if you have to scale back on your workplace, but so we do need to have it in there. Okay, let's have a look at the identify step. Might throw this open to you just a little bit, just to see if there's anything else you've got. I've put 3 up there. What systems can we use to identify hazards? We have some sort of hazard reporting system that anyone in the workplace can use to report a hazard. That could be paper-based, although for lots of organisations now that's actually computer-based. And you might need to actually help people with that if it's a computer-based thing. They can be a little bit onerous sometimes. Our standard checklist / audit sheets that we do, where we go through and we look at particular areas of the workplace to see if there's any hazards. And one that I really like, a safety walkthrough, where we go through a workplace and we actively seek out where people can get hurt or become ill. Okay, question there for us. Who can best identify a hazard? I might ask you that. What do you reckon?
Everyone.
The operators?
Everyone, operators?
Yeah, the person conducting the task.
Person doing the task. And I think you're right. Yes, it is everyone. And we have to try and get people to take ownership of this stuff. So maybe involving people in our safety walkthroughs, getting a different person each time to perhaps go with the team leader and work through a checklist. Just try and get the actual work group to take ownership. That's good. So when we are going and looking at our work area, how good are we? I don't know, some of you might have seen this little video before, and I'm not going to say anything else to introduce it. Let's just have a look. What do you reckon? Oh, that would be right. Okay, so how many passes did the team in white make?
Well, 13. Well, no.
You don't know?
13.
Yeah, that's not the question, as it turns
No
out.
idea.
Leave
No
me in the
idea?
second question.
I've just got to get it back to the right spot. It was 13. Anyone see it?
Yeah.
So this time you're looking for the moonwalking bear, aren't you?
Hmm.
Those of you who did see the bear the first time, well done. You're the people who are like really likely to pick up on hazards. Anyone who didn't see it, it's okay, because I asked you to look at how many passes for the team in white, and a few people got 13, I think. But the point is, it's easy to miss something if you're not looking for it. So in that way, a checklist is really good to use to seek out hazards. But can anyone think of a problem with using a checklist and going through a work area seeking out hazards?
Yeah,
Like
you're only looking for the hazards on the list, not any extra ones.
That's right. That's a really good comment. And that's why it's good to occasionally just do a safety walkthrough, and even encouraging people when they get to work just to put their safety hat on for a minute or two and have a look in their work area to see if there's anywhere they might get hurt that may have changed from yesterday, last week, whatever it was. But yeah, just to be always on the lookout. Maybe the maintenance guys have been in and changed some pipe work somewhere, and now you've got a place where people are actually going to perhaps bump their head on things. Yeah, we need to get people thinking safety, particularly when they first go into a work area. As a trainer, one of the first things I do when I go into a work area is just eyeball all the chairs. Are there any that are perhaps a bit the worst for wear? Not so much now, but when we used to have the standard metal frame chairs that with the welds under the seat, I used to look for leaning in legs, because the last thing I want is for someone to have their chair collapse underneath them. Too much paperwork, mate. Okay. So let's move on anyway. Some workplace hazards in your workplaces. I want you to be thinking about what they are as we go through this. So they could relate to machinery, could relate to manual handling, things falling on top of you, moving parts. Oh, someone's lost his hand there. That's a bit gory. Electrical hazards, slips and trips, temperature, they're all there. So I've got another example of a hazard here. That's a bit extreme, isn't it? I think they're hoisting something up, and he's standing there on his ladder that's held by a rope. Don't think I like that one. Would you stand on that ladder? Hanging out there. It breaks a lot of ladder rules, doesn't it? At least he's not standing right on top of it.
It's still
Okay.
got 3 points of contact.
It has got 3 points of contact, so yeah, that's good. But yeah, the ladder's actually meant to have not be straight up and down like that. The 3-in-1 rule, 3 up and 1 out, is meant to be how it's set up, and you're not meant to work from a ladder. So in that instance, they really should have looked at something that either one of the platform type ladders or some other way, maybe with a mobile platform of some description to do that particular task. Oh, it's a video. I didn't know that. Oh. No, I'm not getting up there. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we have to get a bit of a laugh. Do you want to have another look? Have another look. Down, 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 down. Oh, we got the 3-in-1 rule at the bottom. Looks like it might be an air conditioning unit or something. Oh, no thanks. Okay, so let's just see how good we are at picking up hazards. Now, this will just take me a little minute because I've got to do some resharing, so let me know if you can't see it. You won't see what I'm looking at for a minute. Come on, Mr. Internet. Where's it come up? Where's it come up? Open, that's what I want.
We can still see that.
Can you see a picture?
Yep. How many
Oh,
hazards
okay.
can you find?
Yep. Oh, that's good. I thought I'd have to change that. Yeah. Okay, so how many hazards have we got? This is supposedly for our industry. Someone tell me one and I'll click on it and we'll see if we're right.
The blocked emergency exit.
Yep, very good. That's actually number 7. Oh, get that mouse off there.
Unguarded machinery.
That's down here. Yep, very good.
Water on the path.
Yep.
Like
Carrying
straw,
too many
forks,
boxes.
times up.
Fork tines up. Yep. We still
Badly
got
stacked boxes.
this one.
Yep.
Yep.
Looks like they could be storing the chemicals in the same area.
That one.
That's it.
So we go two's the lowest. 2, 3, 4. Oh, we've still got a couple more to find somewhere.
Bags on the floor.
What was that one? Sorry. That was,
Bags on the floor.
yeah. So poor housekeeping. Oh, that was number 1. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no number 5 yet. Oh yes, there is. There's 5.
The pallet on the ground.
I would have thought that too, but it's not there.
That bloke having a coffee out in the workplace. No,
Where's he having a coffee?
no, it's on the machine next to him. The bloke
Oh, okay.
in the machine, leaning in the machine with his tools.
Yeah, that's not one either. Where's number 6 gone? I thought this one too was a manual handling hazard. The lady with her hands in the box. So where's 6 gone?
What about the guy carrying the boxes that are obstructing his vision?
Yeah, I agree with that one too, but they haven't picked that one. So I think we can add that one in. But there was a number 6 somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Doesn't matter.
What about the machinery that's open
Yeah,
with the red and...
over here.
Yeah, like the guards are up and exposing all the parts.
Yeah, that's all one, the green and the brown. Where's number 6 gone?
Is that forklift outside of the lines there?
8. One. I don't know where the last one is and I can't remember. So I remember having fun with this the other day when I looked at it, trying to find the last one because I thought, well, this guy here, the guy carrying the 3 boxes, that's one. The pallets one, but they haven't counted. Even that bucket sitting there's another one. The way this guy's got to work with his arms up is another one too if we go into manual handling. Doesn't matter. We might have a go at another one, seeing that was so easy. Now, I have to figure out how to what to close out here without. There we go. Have to go back to slideshow. Might have a look at the office one, seeing that worked okay. Internet. Okay, can you still see this time? Yep, cool. So we're in an office now. What hazards have we got in our office?
Exit blocked.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Leads across the floor.
Yep,
Old mate leaning on his chair.
yep.
Water on the floor.
That one's not coming up as a hazard. Why not?
Signed.
Sign there.
Because they've got the sign there. I don't really think that. I think it's still a hazard. And it's funny they should put that one in it, because I was teaching night class the other night, and yeah, while we were still allowed to actually have students in, and the cleaners had been around, and I opened the door to the room, and there was one of those wet floor signs sitting right in the doorway. As soon as I opened the door, and you never look straight down at your feet, and I sort of said to the cleaner, she was still there, I said, oh, you know, is that where you get told to put your signs? And she said, yeah, because we don't want you to step onto the wet floor. I said, yeah, but we don't look down at our feet. We need it to be a little bit out. Or just stick your head around the door and tell me that the floor's wet. That would be even better. But anyway, oh, I showed you one then. What else have we got in our office that's hazardous?
Mop bucket.
I thought that too, and they say no. I don't know why. I would agree with you that that's a hazard. Anything else?
There's a bloke throwing green books at a Sheila's head.
Smart. Yeah, it says the boxes and files are stacked too high. So again, manual handling. Anytime we see people working with either one or both hands above their head is a problem.
The lady in the green looking at the computer sideways.
Workstation ergonomics, very good pickup. Oh yeah, look where they've put a screen. That's any of you who do use workstations, you'll know that we're meant to have something that's a bit more like, oh, that one, don't know what's wrong there yet, we'll find out in a minute. More like this one, so that your screen's at eye level, your keyboard, yeah, it looks like his arms are going up a little bit from the elbow, whereas they should be going down a little bit, but not too bad. What else?
Fella in the green shirt carrying boxes.
Person carrying too much at once, yep.
Is that one in the purple dress, the seat too high or something?
Okay, yeah, so there's a problem there. Oh,
No,
just want us to
it's
think
in
about
the-
repetition with people who do a lot of keyboarding. That used to be a real problem once upon a time when we just had dedicated computer people before the days when we all had to have computer skills. Had one girl in one of the first places I worked, her job was to sit at a computer terminal all day, every day, and enter the work that we gave to her into the computer. She ended up with tennis elbow in both elbows because that was all she did, was sit there, turn pages and type all day. And we thought it was really good because she could type 90 words a minute. Turned out it wasn't so good for her. Okay, we're missing a few.
Old mate pushing the boxes, can't see.
Yep. Very good.
Water on the floor where the sign is.
Yeah, we had that one. That one hasn't been counted, but I think we would all sort of say, well, instead of putting a sign there, what should we do?
There's a
We got a mop
bucket
over here.
there.
Yeah. Let's clean it up, hey. But what do we got? We start at 3's the lowest.
Photocopier up the top left corner. It's not in a table or anything.
Yeah, on the floor. So, yeah, it could be both a fire hazard and also just to use it.
Paper on the floor, would that be one or not?
Yep. Files on the floor.
This guy reaching over the.
That one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's number 4.
All right.
Yeah, that one's coming up as number 4. Where was number 1? I wish they had a thing I could click on to fill it in. I think how it, 1. Ah, there we go. Number 1's a bit harder to find. It's actually there.
Oh, the carpet up.
Yeah. Uneven floor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is over there. 7, 8. I think we found them all. 9. Where's number 10 there? 11. Yeah, so it really doesn't matter what the work environment is. Any work environment's got its own set of hazards. And it's important that we can find them all. And as we flagged with this one, there's probably a couple there that are actually hazards. And I think this one here where this matting type thing is, to me that looks like there's a change in height of the floor. So yes, that's good to do something there, but it would be better if we could even it out. Wouldn't like to push that trolley there down that slope. I reckon he might lose it. Anyway, now how did I get rid of that? There. There. So that was good. There is another one, but we won't stress too much about it. These ones were in case it didn't work. You were just going to tell me what the hazards were. Okay, so what hazards are you guys working with?
Forklifts.
Forklifts, yep.
Yeah, trip, temperature, that kind of thing.
What in temperature in what way? You in a dryer or something?
Pasteurization.
Okay, yep.
Hot pipes.
Hot pipes. Lots of
Chemicals.
lagging around, is there?
Yes.
Yep. Sorry, we cut someone off.
Chemicals.
Yep. What else? You've forgotten the obvious one.
Noise.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. You'd all be working in noisy work environments, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Working your height.
Height. Okay. Is that a normal part of your day that you're working at height, or is it just when you're moving from one level
Yeah,
to
I work in
another?
the whey plant. So
Yeah. So you're moving up and down through the various levels.
yep.
Yep. Anything else? Any dust issues anywhere? You'd hope not in a food plant, unless you're in the in a powder dryer.
Manual lifting being said.
Don't think so, but yeah, not just lifting though, is it?
Turning, twisting.
Yeah, good. So that's Jackie, is it?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, certainly manual handling's more than just lifting. I'm getting some help here. Pushing and pulling, twisting and turning, lifting and carrying. And hopefully we've minimised lots of that. Repetition's the other one that goes in there. Any of you who are perhaps still, who are using, say, multiple bags of ingredients where someone's got to cut them all open and add them to the process, that would be deemed to be a repetitive task because you're doing it more than twice in a minute. Anything that you do more than twice in a minute is deemed to be repetitive when we look at manual handling. Okay, so that's pretty much what I expected. So it's good because you guys can all identify hazards. The thing is now we have to make everybody else be keen to identify hazards as well. What about bacterial type hazards? Have we got any of those? Anywhere? Any damp areas? Hope not. Good. Yeah. What about, have you got any people who are outside for any length of time? Perhaps you're the people who move your chemicals around, or maintenance people, those who are doing maintenance perhaps on roofs that are outside. They got any hazards besides height?
Yeah, the
Yeah, sun.
Yeah, the sun. That's the one I was hinting for. I know it's not a huge one for you guys, but there could very well be individuals within your work teams who perhaps are exposed to more than their share of radiation from the sun. Okay. Assessment of hazards. This is where we have we've identified our hazard, and now we have to collect some information. It's more than just doing the risk score. Even though we talk a lot about it, that's why I've got in there the first dot point on the slide. Research the identified hazard. That's part of the assessment. So if you've got, well, let's pick one of these. A chemical you've decided is hazardous. Part of the research is going to be what?
Read the SDS.
That's right. Get a hold of the safety data sheet and find out what the health effects for that particular hazard are. That it'll have some health effects. It'll also have some safety notes in there. So the ones that burn and that sort of thing will have safety warnings. The ones that have health effects will have what they call health warnings, because we know chemicals are a double whammy, aren't they? They can have an immediate effect and they can also have a long-term effect. So that would be part of your research, but it's also part of the likely consequences, which is just down the page there, because we do need to know that. Other things I would look at as part of that researching the identified hazard is also to go and have a look internally and see if there's been any reports either for that particular area or for your hazard. So we had some slippery floors in the little pictures a minute ago. Is there perhaps a piece of flooring somewhere in your building that's constantly getting slips and trips reported, either as actual events or as near misses? You then know to flag, well, that there's a problem with the piece of floor. It's nothing other than that, because we're getting lots of reports. It can help you to figure out what you should do about it, but also to help you decide the next thing. How likely is it someone's going to get hurt? So we're looking at how many people, how often, and you could probably add in there too, how many reports have there been over time, and what are the likely consequences, which we already touched on. And we'll have a look at those in a minute as well. So how many of you use a risk matrix that might look a bit like that? You use something like that too? Yeah. So that means that we have to make a decision on how likely it is something's going to happen and what the consequences are. Now, hopefully you don't just get given the matrix. You'll also get given some instruction to go with it. And the first part might look like this. This particular matrix and the few slides here are based on the Australian standard for risk assessment, and it's not only for safety risk, it's also for financial risk. So that's why we've got some talk about money as well, but that's all right. So this is how to measure consequence. So how do we decide on the difference between those 5 things? Well, this one's giving us some information, and usually the consequences is a bit easier than the likelihood, but let's have a look. So insignificant, really it's a near miss. We've got potentially no injuries. Next one, first aid treatment is what what's likely to be needed. I'm not sure what they mean by on-site release immediately obtained. I'd say that the on-site release immediately obtained bit means you can keep going with your work. Medical treatment required. Yeah, well, again, that's self-explanatory, and we can now see the difference between a minor and a moderate. So someone's cut themselves, just needed the first aider to put a band-aid, maybe a bandage on it. Bit more serious cut, we've got to send someone off to get some stitches done. So it becomes a moderate consequence. Oops, sorry. Major, that's where we've got extensive injuries, and I get people to think of those extensive injuries as being something that is potentially life-changing. So now we're up to things, well, amputations, could even just be the amputation of a finger. I know a fellow who took the tip off his index finger on his right hand. He did it at home. Luckily, no one home at the time, so he grabbed his mobile phone, dialed 000 and went and lied down on the front lawn till the ambos got there. They reattached it, but to this day, he still can't get his wallet out of his back pocket. He blames the finger, but I think it's just he doesn't want to get his wallet out of his pocket. But yeah, major is more of a life-changing type injury. So for you guys, it could be, oh, well, you tell me, what might be a life-changing injury for people who work with you? No
losing your sight.
Yeah, losing sight. So that could be a chemical. Are you thinking chemicals?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary to me. I could not stand to lose my sight. Yeah, much rather go deaf first. But anyway, we don't want any of those things to happen. So, yeah, I would call that major, life-changing. So you're starting to see what the difference between now a 3 and a 4 is. And the last one's pretty obvious. We have a fatality. And unfortunately, they happen all too often. It's not okay to lose however many people a year. And I can tell you, I don't know for New South Wales and Queensland, I'll be honest. But in Victoria, over the last probably 15 to 20 years, it's hovered between about 22 and about 30. It's still too many though. That's people dying at work. Scary stuff. Okay, so that's the first decision we have to make. The next one is the measure of likelihood. And as I said, I find this one a bit more difficult. And this is the one that's come from the standard, or the information that's come from the standard. Almost certain is expected to occur in most circumstances. So we're just playing with English words here. But in your workplace, it could very well be that someone in your safety department's actually put a little bit more information in it, and for instance has said something can't be deemed to be possible, likely, or almost certain if it hasn't happened in the last 12 months. So that just gives you a little bit of a, well, so if it hasn't happened before, I've got to make it either rare or unlikely. What I want you to think about is always leaving room for it to be worse. Because, yeah, the aim isn't to get the worst possible score. The aim is to get the score that fits the situation the best. Because after all, why do we score things? Here's one of the reasons. Because our risk rating legend actually tells us what to do with each score. Okay, so this particular one has scores of very low, medium, high, very high and extreme. So yours might only have 4. There's no rules around that. Some of you will have matrices that you might multiply the 2 numbers together to come up with a score. That's okay. Or there might be numbers within these boxes. Whatever your score comes out to be, though, there should be something like this. And if there's not, it might be something to raise with your safety committee. Can we have some instruction on how our risk scores are applied? So for this one, I would even like to see with this one with the extreme risk, stop work, if that's appropriate in your industry, which I think it is. So that's where you can see I'm asking you to save the extreme risk for where, yeah, we're going to have life-changing injuries and it's really likely, and we don't want to expose people to that risk. So we're not going to stop until it's improved. And you can see by those 2, it also gives you some idea, and it could say in yours, where it says there senior management, it might specify a particular senior manager, or it might say the boss has to get involved. Okay, so that's our use of the matrix. I'm not sure what the next slide is, but let's just review that. So we use our risk matrix to make sure that we know all about the hazard. We can't do that making of the score until we do this. Until we actually make sure we know all about our hazards. And also as we're doing this, just make sure number 4 happens, that all the recording gets done, because otherwise you'll have nothing to look at as you go forward. Okay, so is everybody good with using those? So I think you have to do a risk score somewhere along the line in your assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Now this hasn't come out right. What have I done to that? Oh, no, that's all right. It flies in. That's all right. Okay, so once we've done our identification of the hazard and come up with how much of a risk it is, we have to figure out what we're going to do about it. Called the hierarchy of hazard controls. What a weird looking slide it is at the minute. Okay, so we had some rules in the legalese earlier today, and the first one was that we had to eliminate the hazard if possible. So that's at the top of the hierarchy of control, and it's the most effective way to control a hazard. So if something gets identified in your workplace and it doesn't need to be there to make your product, then we get rid of it. And I would expect for all your workplaces, that's already happened. But please still ask yourself the question, can I eliminate this hazard? Okay. I had an example in, my background originally was in the laboratory area, and I got to go and see a fabric testing laboratory a while ago. And on one of the landings in their stairwell, they had a piece of old testing equipment that was used to test the tensile strength of the fabric. Anyway, it was on a low table, and someone went up the stairs really quickly, bumped into the table, knocked this ancient piece of equipment off, and did some significant damage to their lower leg and foot. Well, when we look at the hierarchy of hazard controls in that instance, well, perhaps the piece of equipment should have been donated to the Historical Society or something instead of being put where someone could actually hurt themselves on it. It's really hard for me to think of examples of that one now because, as I said, most places have already done the elimination thing. So that's one red line, and that's the preferred option if we can do it. So in between our two red lines, we want to try and change the risks to reduce them. And I'm guessing some of you have seen this. If you have any questions, please stop me. So next question is, can I do the same job but using something that doesn't have the same amount of risk? And this substitution step has been put in for chemicals. So once upon a time in our food industry, how many of us use caustic for cleaning? Yeah? Everyone?
Yes.
I'd reckon you all might. These days it's mostly a liquid and it's cleaning in progress, CIP. Yeah? Well, once upon a time they used to use a product called flake caustic. It was a solid and it got mixed up in buckets or tubs before it got put through the equipment. And if the people didn't follow the instructions properly, we had one guy actually do this when I was at one of the canneries, had some water and some caustic, and he thought, I can make this work better because, you know, whenever mum's got a really dirty pot at home, she uses hotter water. So he didn't actually follow the instructions, but that's another story. Instead of putting it into cold water, he put it into hot water. And of course, as soon as this caustic flake hit the hot water, he got some super boiling and it boiled over and he got some really bad caustic burns. So we've actually done a substitution already to make it way safer for us to use caustic. Because even before we went to CIP, we actually went to liquid caustic or caustic in a pellet form because it didn't react so much when we diluted it. There are some chemicals that you don't use, probably some that we still possibly shouldn't use. I had a girl in a class the other day, and they've just started using Oxonia Active, and yeah, she said didn't realise how much more hazardous it was than what they used to use, and they're still debating whether it does a better job or not. That was for sanitising though, not cleaning. Okay, so our engineering controls. I already mentioned one, switching over to cleaning in place rather than manual cleaning. Guards on moving parts. They're all changes to the equipment to actually reduce the risk. Putting railings on stairwells. I'm not guessing, I'm suggesting that you all have a 3 points of contact rule whenever you go up and down stairs. That's because we've put a handrail there. That's an engineering control. Oh, we don't have isolation in this one. Okay, we'll go back to that. What other engineering controls have we got? Maybe something to do with forklifts. Are there any engineering controls on them?
Bollards.
Yep. So that's for them to bump into instead of bumping into the racking or into the equipment. I say that tongue in cheek because I bumped into one at the petrol station once. It was a bit embarrassing.
They're mainly speed limited now too.
That's right. That's more what I was thinking about. The actual changes that they've made to the forklift, so as to reduce the risk. Even something like having to have the seatbelt on before it'll engage. So they're all engineering controls. The other thing that goes in there is isolation methods too. How many of you work in a control room?
Yeah.
Yep. What's it like outside the control room with regard to the environment?
Hot.
Yeah, and
Noisy.
hot and noisy.
Yeah.
So your control room is actually a hazard control. It's a barrier that's been put around the operators so that they don't have to work in that hot, noisy environment. So it's actually a safety control that you would deem to be an isolation from the hazards. Okay, we thought we were pretty clever when we thought that one up. They've been around for a while now, though. Okay, so administrative controls. This is where, and we've gone below another line here. So when we've done everything we can to physically reduce the risk, then we have to also work on the people. And this one's probably harder than the change the risks in lots of ways, even though the change the risks can be quite expensive. Changing the people can be really difficult. You got any people who don't like change in your work groups? Bet you have.
Yes.
Yeah. What do they say if you ask them to do something a different way?
It's not broken, so don't fix it. Or...
Yep. Anything else?
It's too hard.
Too hard to change?
Yep.
Always done it this way?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And it is actually really hard to unlearn things. Once you've learnt something, it's really hard to unlearn it. Like I noticed, and I'm not sure who it was, sorry, when I asked about the chemicals, it automatically came out STS. Well, I'm having real trouble with that because I still want to say MSDS all the time because it's what I learned. But I know it's not right. But anyway, but changing the people can be really difficult. So making rules are administrative controls. So when we paint a line on the concrete somewhere and say this side for pedestrians and that side for forklifts, what sort of control is it?
Administrative.
It is, isn't it? Even though we've put the line on the ground, we haven't done anything to physically stop the people from going into the forklift area, or stop the forklift from going into the people area for that matter. So it's a rule. Any rules that we make that aren't backed up with some way of physically stopping an individual from doing something we don't want them to is an administration or an administrative control. Job rotation's a popular one. If anyone who's still got manual packing happening, we try and job rotate through some of the tasks that perhaps involve hazardous manual handling. Whereas perhaps the preferred control might be to automate that packing. Yeah, that was a big one. A while ago when people just used to take packages off the line at the end and put them on a pallet. So lots of things in administrative controls. Training's got to go in there somewhere. Signs, sharing of information, they're all administrative controls. And the one that's at the end, personal protective equipment. Is that an effective control? We use it. Think about your own workplace. Does everyone use the protective gear they're meant to use? I just gave it away. Bugger. Because I wanted you to come up with that. Personal protective equipment's only effective if everybody uses it. And that's why it's at the bottom of the list. And we've got to, preferable to stay above the line. You can't totally stay above the line because there'll always be some training whenever you make a change. So there's always going to be an element of change people. And in some instances, this one down the bottom here, this PPE, it's going to be the one that you can go down the street and grab today and make people way safer than they were yesterday. But we have to remember that we still need to move up here and deal with any of the change the risks that we can do there too. And there's our arrow. Most effective, least effective. Okay. So we need to, any questions on that risk management process? We've tied a little bit of hazard stuff in with that, which is good because it's taken a little bit longer than what I thought, but that's all right. I really am hoping you'll say a bit more. I hope you're getting this. You're not giving me any clues. So we'll move on. The next thing we have to look at in your unit that you're doing is participative arrangements for management of OHS or WHS. And this is the same for all the states. It's a legal requirement that there is systems for allowing employees to have input into the OHS management. So that looks a bit busy, doesn't it? Consultative procedures is what we're about, and also OHS representative bodies within your workplace. Okay, so consultation. What do we need to consult with workers on? The things on the screen. They're just some of them. Safety needs, whether they be physical or psychological. Although, oh, that's a good picture. Can't see where he's going. So now he's going to cause another issue with, well, we got a water fountain and he's dragging a trolley in front of it. So there could that could be disastrous. Might pull the water tower over and then that mixes with electricity. And then he drops the box. Oh, goodness me. So we should be consulting with workers on those things as a minimum. Probably not necessarily. Oh, yeah, I suppose the order doesn't really matter. Compliance requirements down the bottom. Yes, that one will fall into place if you do all the others. The one that's not there, perhaps, is employee welfare. What sort of facilities do we need? That's another consultation requirement. That was our coffee one from before. Why? Because we're encouraging ownership and trying to get employees to be really actively involved. Okay, here's some more. I already talked about motivation, must have known that was coming. And it really is about continuous improvement again. Okay. This one's written in a roundabout sort of way. The organisation has to allow for consultation. As I said, it's a legal requirement. And also the respect side of it comes in when we want people to tell us what's going on in the workplaces, because without that we can't fix things, because the employees know the job best. So that's the reasons why we consult. And in Victoria, it's Section 35 of your OHS Act. It'll be in the OHS Act for the other states, just won't be Section 35. And there are fines attached to that. Okay, so what might it look like? You guys told me before, or some of you anyway, told me that you had safety reps. So to me, that means that you've also got designated work groups in all likelihood. And designated work groups are merely groups of workers within your organisation, just so that you've got a way to break them up. Could be that they've got similar jobs. Could be they all work in the same area of your I was going to say plant, I guess it's plant, isn't it? Of your site. And they can then elect one or more health and safety reps. So factories that I've been exposed to tend to have perhaps an admin work group and then a work group for each of the different areas that they have production-wise. So, yeah, if you've got an evaporator, there'll be an evaporator group. If you're making butter, there'll be a butter group. If there's a cheese room, that'll be another group. And they each elect their health and safety reps. That then sets up a core group for consultation. And from a legal perspective, and I know I didn't want to talk legal too much here, but from a legal perspective, if the management liaise and consult with the health and safety rep, and the health and safety rep then takes that information back to their work group, and information can flow the other way as well, then legally they're deemed to have met the requirements for consultation. Okay. I haven't got an example business for you. Oh, we sort of did. We had the pictures before. But do you have something in your own workplaces that's a bit like that? Think about, do the work groups make sense? Are they grouped in a way that they have something in common? You don't need to do the task with that. But what I would like you to do for your work group, just you can do it physically if you want, or just do it ticking off in your head. Can you put the names to everybody who's in a work group and who's their safety rep? Because I don't need to know that, but you do. Okay. And that then sets us up for the next bit, which is how do we resolve occupational health and safety issues? So it could be that if there's, well, the system that we talked about before is part of this. What happens when someone reports a hazard in your workplaces? Come on, somebody tell me one so that I can expand on it. What happens when that not incident report, we're not going there, hazard report goes in?
The person it's reported to has got to put controls in place to eliminate the risk or minimise the risk.
Yeah, to do something pretty much immediately to minimise that risk. That's right. That was Michael, was it? Your microphone's on.
It was Dave.
Oh, it wasn't Michael. Like I said, I can only see half of you on my screen. I have to click. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's good. But yeah, there's got to be some sort of process in place. Really good if we can put a temporary fix in place. What would a temporary fix involve? Let's just say it's a slippery floor. What's a temporary fix?
Cordon off the area.
Yep.
A sign.
Sign, yep. Yeah, one place I trust the slippery signs are places like McDonald's, because I've watched them in the days when I used to take my kids to McDonald's. We'd be sitting there and you'd see them clean up a spill or whatever, put their slippery floor sign out, and sometimes, they come back in half an hour and take the sign away because it had dried. So you know that the signs are meaningful. And that's one of the problems with signs, actually, because sometimes they aren't meaningful. Not good. Not good, not good. But that's fine. We've resolved it, and then we would look in the longer term what we're actually going to do about our slippery piece of floor. Now, for you guys, it's not always that simple, because you first got to figure out why the floor's slippery. Oil leaks. The one I had before, cheese on the floor. Any other reason why it might be slippery, because we've got to first react to the reason why the floor's slippery. But it could also be that you have some discord or disagreement with how to fix a problem, or maybe even that it is a problem. And that's where you go into your issue resolution procedure. And every workplace must have one of these. It's not in the Act this time, it's in the regulations. So what do we do if we can't agree? And it's important that you guys facilitate resolving any issues within your work areas. And your safety reps come into play again there with some of their powers. I don't think you guys need to know about safety rep powers, so I'll just say that safety reps do have powers, and they can shut down, in extreme circumstances, they can shut down work within your teams. Okay, you've also probably got an OHS committee. I think you said you did. And they're really an overseer of safety in your workplace. It's not where you go to get your slippery floor fixed unless it's an ongoing issue, because they do things like develop safety policies. They could be the problem-solving group where you can't come up with anything within your work team, but that's going to be fairly rare. They also keep an eye on policies. Yeah, if you need any new policies, if you're an evolving workplace, they would do that. And also, if you've got any workers on either a return to work plan or looking to come back to work, they would be keeping their finger on the pulse there. So that's more of a human resources function. And you guys, yeah, we don't have to talk a lot about return to work, other than to say that, and this is me thinking on the run here because I think it does need to get mentioned. If you have someone on a return to work plan within your group, you need to make sure, A, that they're safe, and B, that they're being there and doing a reduced workload doesn't put anyone else at risk. Okay, any questions there? Okay, we got left. Okay, I think we've already done a lot of this actually. We talked about induction earlier. It is a requirement. If you haven't got an induction, you can't say that everybody in your workplace is safe. That's the bottom line. Okay? So it is a process whereby new employees can be made safer. I like to think of a induction though as, you know, some places do, you know, half days, days, maybe even more of induction for new employees, both as an induction to the business, and it's got obviously got a safety standard as well, which I think we'll see here. So some of the things that we look at with induction, industry standards, competency standards, checking that people have got the right licenses. They're the sort of things that we're looking at from the background. Why have I got a blank slide? Oh, it's not blank. Always, there should be some component of OHS in the induction. And we need to also think about training, which we're going to move into in a minute. That's the induction's our first step there. What else should be an induction though? What do you reckon? All the human resources type stuff. Yeah, go, Michael.
I was going to say showing people around the site so they actually know where to go.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, so a bit of a site walk. That would be, to me, a minimum, particularly if you're a large site. And I can't remember. I feel like I've done a slide for this, but that's okay. If we get to it, I'll just skip it. But that might just be the generic induction, if you like. And then when you get your couple of new people who've come on to do whatever for you today, you probably need to do another walkthrough of your area to make sure that they know all they need to know about that area. Whether it's to do with the plant hygiene requirements or whether it's just to point out to them, you know, this is a forklift area. As soon as you hear the bleepers, get out of the way. That sort of thing. Really specific stuff just to your area to try and keep them safe. And that also is a form of training. And as someone said before, putting them with a knowledgeable buddy is a good way to do that. So we move into training a little bit now. You guys have to have a handle on the training needs of your team, and we've got a statement there. Training is the process whereby employees gain new knowledge and skills so that they can do their job. So you might refer to them as competencies in the workplace. That seems to be a buzzword at the moment. But basically it's, okay, it's a skill set. How do I make sure that the people running this piece of equipment, those who are going to do it, all have all the skills that they need? The other thing is, how do I actually show a third party, or in an audit if you like, that everybody has the skills they need to do their jobs? So in formal words, we look first at a training needs analysis. So you've got an area, it's got some equipment in it, you set up the skills that you need to run the area. So it could be that you need someone who can run the evaporator, someone who can pack, someone who can do whatever it is that you're doing. And we actually set that down. And it might be really specific. It might be, we've got what did I say, evaporator? We've got someone with an evaporator competency, but we've also got someone who can regulate the pumps maybe. Probably not a great example for me because I don't know enough about what an evaporator operator does. But you will have a skill set there. And we set that out so that it can be skills across the top, names down the side, and we can use some sort of either a tick or a dot to say, yes, this person's got this skill. However, having said all that, training should be ongoing and regular checks. And when I say regular, you're going to be talking, once a person's got the competency, if they're continuing to do the job, then we're just going to check it every couple of years. If they move on and do another job for a while, then we have to do a competency check if they come back into that role again. Okay, this is one we can't do in this forum. Just a question for you to think about. We can't do the activity both on a time basis and also in our forum, unless someone wants to suggest something. What are the points that you would use to develop a safety training program in your team? What would we have in such a training program and why? I might kick it off. We might just have a quick run and see what we can do. I would like to make sure that everyone knows the emergency evacuation procedure, what to do if we have to evacuate. That might be one of mine. Anyone think of anything else? Other safety things that you might want all your people to know?
PPE requirements.
Yep, good. Anything else?
Entries, exits.
Where they are? Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
The traffic plan.
So how we're going to get there?
Yep.
Yep. I guess the one another there might be another one perhaps to do with things you might need in an emergency. Where it's located. What about our fella that got chemicals in his eyes earlier?
There's safety showers.
Yeah, where they are. So they're all, it's simple things, but if people don't know about it when they need it, it's going to mean that we have a worse outcome from a safety point of view. The other one might be around emergency stops. How can I stop the plant if I need to? That would be part of the safety training program as well. Does first aid fit here? I think it does. Have you all got first aiders in your team?
Yes.
Good. I mean, it's no skin off my nose whether you have or not. I'm just trying to make you think about your own workplaces from the point of view of safety. Personally, I'd like to see multiple first aiders in each team, because who's going to first aid the first aider if they get crook? So, yeah, I mean, we tend to think, oh, yeah, next door's got one, or, yeah, everywhere's got one, but that's really not enough. Okay. So the next part of the program is really about implementing some of the things that we've been talking about so far. So we know about hazard and risk assessments, and we've probably covered. I have got some more information on hazards, but I'll say we might do a little bit more on it this afternoon, because I want you to be able to have a break before you go off to listen to Tetra Pak. So we'll perhaps leave that, but also some other tools that we might get you to use. Understanding changes in safety procedures, or any time there's a change, is there an effect of safety? Yes, there is. Standard KPIs for continuous improvement monitoring. So with regard to safety, a KPI could be that everybody's wearing their safety gear. Absolutely everybody. And if everybody's not, then we didn't meet the KPI. Likewise, we didn't meet it if they didn't wear it all the time. Also, safety systems and continuous improvement. Problem solving. Oh, well, really, if you've got a hazard, it's the same way we problem solve anything else. If for some reason your equipment's not turning out product to the standard that you want it, you've got to go into problem solving. It's exactly the same with your safety problems. And we've also got to look at some point about managing stress type hazards in our workplace as well. We haven't talked about that as a hazard yet, have we? Might have to do that later. Just a bit of light relief coming up though. Why are we doing it? Why do we try and make workplaces safer rather than, okay, what's it done to me? Oh, okay, I've got a couple of slides here with the cars on. It's the guy who helped, who was one of the guys in our team, was a bit of a car buff, as you can see. Picked out some older cars and telling us in Victoria, the road toll was actually 1,077 people in 1977. I had a bit of a look at this yesterday, and because I remember when I was growing up, the state government declared war on 1034. That was the road toll in 1969. Telling you how old I am now. And that resulted in seatbelts coming into play. Because when you compare the numbers, and we've got a couple of more modern cars now, in 1970, that road toll for Victoria was 1077. Now, well, I checked this out yesterday too. In 2018, 221. Had a bit of a blip last year. It had been pretty much constantly going down. But last year, our road toll was 288. Now, you asked me, what might that have to do with workplace health and safety? Anyone want to help me out? Why am I talking about road toll?
Fatigue.
That's one of the reasons why we have accidents on the road. Yes, Sean? What I want you to think about is we've actually made a big reduction in the road toll by changing the main hazard. How much have we changed the car and the safety features on the cars? Well, seatbelts was only one thing, wasn't it? Even though these two much older cars are probably structurally, well, they're made from heavier metals and things like that, no plastic anywhere. But our modern cars, the area where people actually sit has been built to be a cocoon that protects against damage in the event of an accident. So it's not only the seat belts, it's also the control on ABS type controls. It's also airbags. It's the pillars that are put in so that if we flip the thing, it's not going to compress. Well, I know sometimes they do, but it's not going to compress. And in theory, we should be able to survive the impact. That's why the road tolls come down, along with the improvements to the roads themselves. So let's look at this in conjunction or in relation to our OHS process. Because we have done that. We've done things like seatbelts in cars. And I don't just mean seatbelts on forklifts. I mean the sort of controls that we've actually put in place to stop people from being hurt. They equate to the changes that have been made to cars. Okay, because this isn't quite what I thought it was. So when you want to change something, you have to set a goal. So it could be that our goal is to make workplaces safer, or it could be something that's a bit more specific than that. It could be to reduce the near misses involving pedestrians and forklifts. Well, near misses, that hasn't come up yet. I think we need to talk about near misses. What's a near miss, guys?
Something that has the potential to cause injury or harm but hasn't happened yet.
Well, that sounds a bit like a hazard. Yeah, I would add a little bit more to that. The fact that the near miss is actually an incident, something did happen.
Yeah. It's something that happened but didn't cause the damage it could have.
Yep, sounds good. So in other words, we were lucky. That wasn't what I expected it to do. Okay, so there was an incident, but we were lucky, is what I would see as a near miss. Now, how many of you can put your hand on your heart and say you think you get near misses reported? Has anyone had a near miss lately? Bit of a slip, but didn't actually fall over? What else would be a realistic near miss? Drop something, but it didn't land on anybody? I'm sure we all have them. It's hard to think of them when you're on the run. And I should have had a slide for it probably, but I didn't think of it when I was getting this ready. What I want you to think about is, are you getting, for every serious injury that you get reported, are there 30 minor injuries reported and 300 near misses? Because that's the statistics that history tells us, the relationship between near misses, minor injuries and serious injuries. Now, why do we want our near misses reported?
So you can fix the problem.
Yeah, because they're a symptom that there's a problem that we need to fix. And so we need to encourage our workers not to feel ashamed because they've had a near miss. You know, someone slips over and all they get's a wet bottom. Are they likely to come and tell you they slipped over? Probably not. Hopefully they just go off and change out of their wet things and come back ready to work again. But we want to know that there's a problem. So it's a cultural thing, that reason why people don't want to report near misses. Forklifts, we've sort of got people over a bit of a barrel now. You know, you can't pretty much fake that you've had a near miss, haven't had a near miss on a forklift now, that you accidentally bumped something, because all the technology tells us that you have, but that's all right. At least we know about it and we can figure out why it's happening. So that's goal setting. Our goal set could be that we actually increase the number of near misses that we're getting reported. Does that mean we're not as safe as we were last month? No, it doesn't. It just means that we're actually getting all the information that we need, or more of the information that we need, to make sure our workplace is safe. And that also fits in with the organisational vision, which is to be safer than we were last week. So we put a plan in place. Let's be much safer at work. Have you got any OHS plans in your workplace? Could be that goes back to those goals again, and they may have already been done, because there is already in place some key performance indicators. So if it's our near misses, it might be that every month we're going to get 30 near misses reported, one a day. That's probably a good starting point. If you think it's too high, don't make it one a day, make it 15, make it one every other day. But that's an example of a KPI. Designing and developing controls. So that would come out of any information that you get, and then to monitor and record what you're doing. We're talking about a process now. And the last step, when we go to monitor, let's just say we've gone right through the risk management process. We've found a hazard, we've assessed the risk, we've put our control in place, and now we need to check that it's doing the job that it's doing for us. So it might have been in place for, let's just say we put some new rules in place. We decided that for whatever reason, everybody in a particular area was going to wear eye protection all the time. And I know it happens. Some of you might already have that one in place, but let's just say it's a new one. And we did it because we had a near miss with someone nearly losing their sight for whatever reason. Let's say it was a chemical blowout in a valve somewhere. So now we've decided everyone's going to wear eye protection. So that one, you could probably do it in a week, 2 weeks. Just go around for a walk, have a look, see if everybody's wearing their eye protection. If they're not, what are we going to do? Ooh, maybe we better try and have another go at getting the system implemented. We also need to record that, though, just so that we can track it as a business. We can say, oh yeah, we made this rule. Yes, the employees have taken it on, and here's the records that we've got to show it. Okay, so, and also, that's also part of the last one, where we evaluate and assess performance. Yes, we've hit the nail. The other thing I'd like you to think about in an OHS context here, because this is just a normal change management process, have we created any new hazards by whatever changes we've made? By making everyone wear safety glasses all the time, are there any hazards? Is there anything we have to deal with? Maybe we've got some people who are actually alongside it, so they might not be able to see well with our just normal safety glasses on. They might need some actual glasses with lenses in. So that would be part of the evaluation and assessment, and also the interventions that we might need to introduce and adjust our plans if it's not working. So that's a really simple one. Probably doesn't necessarily show all the things of this process, but yeah, it's about going back and looking to see if we've achieved what we set out to achieve. And of course, we do the last thing. We give feedback to the employees on how it's going. Okay. Just a thought to leave you with, because it is 12 o'clock nearly. I've got too many things telling me what time it is here, and they're not quite the same. Okay. The other person in the room's telling me to have lunch. Probably sick of listening to me. Okay, so what do you know about your own organisation's risk assessment procedures? And when I say that, I'm just referring it to the generic risk assessment procedure. So find out what you know. Oh, how do you find out what you know? Just have a think about it. Is there anything you do need to know? This might prompt something. How often are the risk assessments conducted, or how often do you do your walkthroughs? I hope risk assessments are actually done whenever anybody reports a hazard. Who's involved in that risk assessment process or procedure? And what communication strategies have you got in place? How are you recording your results? And how do we get back to the employees if we want to change something? Or just to say, hey, you know that issue you raised? Well, we've dealt with it and here's what we've done. Okay, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to ask if you've got any questions. Nobody's talking to me. No questions.
Nah.
Nah, it's all good. Okay, so that's lunch. Oh, Matthew, did you want to say something?
No, all good.
All good? Okay. Dylan's organised for Tetra Pak to do a presentation for us from 1 o'clock. So you need to be logged into whichever meeting it is for that. So it won't be this one. It'll be a different meeting that you need to. Okay? I'll see. I'm going to be in the Tetra Pak meeting too, I think, unless I have to do something else. I have to just have to touch base with my boss. But otherwise, I'll see you at 3 in this particular meeting room. Okay?
Thanks.
All good. Thanks.
Thank you.
No worries.